Hello, this is Bill Madigan, and welcome to another session of EduGameStar's question and answer videos. This particular question is asked by so many people that I'm not going to credit it to one individual, but I would like to thank everyone that did ask it, because I'm sure many people can benefit from the answer. Today's question is, what is dyslexia? I am always amazed by how few people really understand dyslexia. If 50 million people woke up tomorrow with a persistent condition, the media would be all over it. Unfortunately, dyslexia does not get that kind of exposure. Most people, including teachers, think of dyslexia as that B and D thing that young children do sometimes. In reality, dyslexia is the largest teaching disability and also the most misunderstood.
Let's look at the word dyslexia itself for a moment. In Greek, dys means trouble, and lexia means words. So generally speaking, dyslexia means trouble with words, or, as we use it today, trouble with reading. But what is it really? To truly understand dyslexia, we have to begin with the basics. What controls all of the things that we do in our daily lives? The walking, talking, cooking, cleaning, riding a bike. Of course, the answer is the brain. The brain controls all of the actions and how we process information that we receive through our senses. All of the things that we see, hear, smell, touch, and taste are all processed in our brains.
Our brains do a lot for us, sometimes without us even asking. Take speaking, for example. Most of us learned how to speak in our native tongue without ever going to school. Our brains just picked up speaking by listening to others. And that's because, for human beings, speaking is a natural occurrence. Not everything we learn is natural. Take reading, for example. For human beings, reading is not a natural occurrence and must be taught by one human being to another. And that's where dyslexia begins to rear its ugly head.
Many of us don't think about it, but all those little marks or symbols that we see when we read all have to be processed by the brain in order to make sense in the way that our writer intended them to. In English, we call those symbols letters, but it does not matter what you call them. It's just important to know that they have to be processed by the brain no matter what language we are trying to read.
Now, if everyone processed written information in the same way, learning to read would be the same for everyone. But sadly, that's just not the case. Human beings are different, and when it comes to reading, between 15 and 20% of people process written information much differently. And it's that profile that we call dyslexia.
Studies in the mid-1990s using MRIs actually showed that dyslexics use different parts of their brains to read with than non-dyslexics. Now, that in and of itself would not be a problem, except that the parts of the brain that the dyslexic might use to read with are, from birth, not very efficient at that process, whereas the parts of the brain that the non-dyslexic uses to read are.
When a dyslexic tries to learn to read, they experience a variety of weaknesses that make forming the symbol-to-sound relationships that we call reading difficult to impossible. To make matters worse, dyslexics exhibit different weaknesses from person to person, which makes them as a group poor candidates to learn to read in a standardized system.
So it is fair to say that dyslexia is a processing problem, meaning that the dyslexic is not processing all of those symbols that we use in reading the same way as the non-dyslexic. The reason that is happening is because Mother Nature has the dyslexic using inefficient parts of the brain to perform the reading task.
A lot of parents are probably going to get upset when they see this video and think that there's something wrong with their child's brain, which is really not the case. Dyslexics can and do learn to read. It just requires more attention and effort. Dyslexics can learn to read when, and only when, they build neural pathways in the skills areas that Mother Nature is holding back. Once a dyslexic has the skills that are necessary to learn how to read and are shown how to use them, then they can read as well as anyone else.
To sum this all up, dyslexia is a neuropsychological condition which impacts approximately 18% of human beings. These individuals use non-traditional parts of their brains to read with, and those parts have a variety of weaknesses that vary from person to person. The good news is that these weaknesses can be reversed. It's important to note that dyslexia is many things, but the dyslexic is not stupid, lazy, or in any way less of a human being than others. They are just a minority that is caught in a system that was built for someone else.
Well, I hope that sheds some light on dyslexia for our viewers. If not, I invite you to send me an email or contact me directly by phone, and I will make sure you get a clear understanding of dyslexia. I'd like to also thank you all for watching. And until next time, keep those questions coming.